This is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex C.
All right, here we go. It is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C., a sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. Now, today is very different. Starting off my show a little late. Just had some stuff go on. It's been kind of a crazy day. Getting the show in today, actually, I'm kind of surprised I did. I thought I was going to have to postpone till tomorrow. But it's kind of cool that I did get the opportunity to postpone today's show. Reason being, some crazy news just came out. Here in the 602, we've been going through a little something. We've been going through a lot of something, and there's a lot of stuff for me to get into as far as the 602 is concerned. But I'm going to blow off two of the things that I thought I was going to talk about today, because this one topic is absolutely probably going to take over the show. But I do have some other stuff to get to first. So let me try and get through all this today. This is absolutely what a day. Feels like a Monday. Okay, so staying with the NBA really quickly, we've got some stuff that came in regards to all rookie and all defensive teams. Let's get into that really quickly. So the all NBA first team, we have Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns, Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks, Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks, and Nikola Jokic, a.k.a. the Joker, from the Denver Nuggets. The second team is Steph Curry from the Golden State Warriors, Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies, Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets. I'm surprised he's not first team, to be honest. LeBron James from the LA Lakers, and Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers. It's amazing he's second team, but he possibly could be the league's MVP. Third team, we have Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks. We have Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns. We have DeMar DeRozan from the Chicago Bulls. Pascal Siakam from Toronto, and Karl Anthony Towns, a.k.a. Cat, from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, another list that has come out award-wise, it seems to be award season, even though we're not really done with the postseason as of yet. Matter of fact, we're actually just getting into the postseason. We have the all-rookie list that has come out. First team, we have Cade Cunningham from the Detroit Pistons. We have Evan Mobley from the Cleveland Cavaliers. We have Scotty Barnes from the Toronto Raptors. We have Franz Wagner of the Orlando Magic. We have Herbert Jones of the New Orleans Pelicans. And the second team is Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets, Alperen Sengun from the Houston Rockets, Bones Highland from the Denver Nuggets, Ayo Dosunmu from the Chicago Bulls, and Josh Giddey from the Oklahoma City Thunder. So again, award season is upon us, and we're not even done with the postseason. Play-in results, we got to talk about that a little bit, but before we get into that, let's talk about the all-defense first team, which includes Marcus Smart from the Boston Celtics, Mikal Bridges from the Phoenix Suns, Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies, Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat, Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz. And then, of course, you have Matisse Thybulle, second team, Philadelphia 76ers, Fred VanVleet from the Toronto Raptors, Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks, Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors, and Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers, all rounding out the second team. So, all right, I don't even know. This news that just came out is still driving me nuts. I can't even believe that I am seeing what I'm seeing in regards to the report that just came out. Let me pull up something really quickly before I move on. Let's get the results from last night's NBA games. I didn't get to watch the first game of the day. I did end up watching the second game. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. San Antonio and New Orleans. First and foremost, it makes sense why these two are the bottom of the barrel as far as playoff teams go. I was not impressed with the play of either team. San Antonio, here's one thing, and there's multiple things here. But first and foremost, San Antonio, I look at that roster, and I'm like, there's a bunch of nobodies here. Like, who's been building this roster? Who's the GM? Who's calling the shots? Because I'm looking at that roster, and the first thing that I said to myself when I looked at that roster, when I looked at those players on the court yesterday, was like, who are these guys? It's a bunch of nobodies. Like, what is San Antonio trying to do? Don't give me the BS story about 22 consecutive seasons in the postseason. Look, I know it's a great accomplishment to make the postseason, but it's also kind of really not that difficult if you're an average basketball team. You don't got to be a great basketball team. You don't got to be a basketball team that excels at anything. You just have to be an average basketball team that can win a few more games than you lose, and you're going to make it in to the postseason. So for me, 22 consecutive seasons, not that big of a deal. I'm sorry. I know that I'm the guy going against the grain here. I know that I'm the guy that some NBA analysts are going to say, that guy's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Think about it, folks. To make the NBA playoffs, you don't have to have a great record. All you got to do is win a few more games than you lose, and you can make the playoffs. And besides, just by making the playoffs absolutely means nothing when you think of 22 consecutive years of making the playoffs, and yet you got nothing to show for it. How many NBA titles you got to show for those 22 years? What have you done? What kind of a big threat have you been over those 22 years? Look, Popovich without a true superstar, Robinson, Duncan, Kawhi Leonard, which he's not a threat. He can't win without a true A++ superstar on his roster. Popovich is not a coach that elevates average players and makes them better. Popovich is a guy who, like other coaches that I've said the exact same thing about, like the triangle coach, the one who coached, the Chicago Bulls, without true superstars playing for them, it's amazing how when they got a regular roster, they're irrelevant. Popovich has been irrelevant without Duncan, without Robinson, without Kawhi Leonard. And even with Kawhi Leonard, San Antonio wasn't really a threat to go deep and win an NBA title. So he can't do anything without a true A++ superstar. And what he has on a roster, and that kid from Washington that they were trying to promote last night, like he's the star for the Spurs, that kid, he's average at best. He looks like a true Washington basketball player, a program that I personally don't have a lot of respect for. I'm a U of A basketball fan. I watch college basketball. I watch U of A. I watch the Pac-12, so I do get to see a lot of Washington games. That's never been a program that has ever been that impressive to me. And just like the Washington program, maybe they make it to the dance and then they get bounced out because they don't have any true superstars. That's what you're looking at with San Antonio. They got no stars. That kid that they're trying to promote, I think they said he was in his 5th season. See, I don't even remember the kid's name. That's how irrelevant he is. That's how unimpressive he was. That's how unimportant he is to the league. He's not anybody that was on any of the lists that I just read, by the way. So I don't know why they pumped him up as if he's some up-and-coming superstar and he's going to be, Ja Morant. That kid played like garbage. I can't even remember his name. He's as unmemorable as the performance for the San Antonio Spurs was last night. And that was an unmemorable performance. That was like two bad teams going at it, and the best of the bad teams won, which was the New Orleans Pelicans. New Orleans, they've got some guys that maybe later on down the road, if they add some other pieces, they might be able to do something. Maybe if they add some other pieces. But they're going to have to add some other pieces, and they're going to have to dump their so-called superstar that they've been waiting for to come back that hasn't played all season because he is a bust. B-U-S-T, bust. He is not somebody that deserves a max contract, and I don't think other owners would pick him up. I really don't. That's just me. So I see a okay lineup for New Orleans. CJ McCollum, a couple of names on there that maybe you're like, okay, all right. But are they anybody that you're worried about taking it to the limit, making their way to the NBA Finals? Absolutely not. That lineup, that roster, CJ McCollum is the only memorable guy on that roster, in all honesty. Not that they're not good, though. Again, New Orleans, since the All-Star break, has been playing well, playing better, winning games that they shouldn't have won, more competitive, and their coach is doing a fantastic job. I can't say he's not. But they've got to add more pieces for New Orleans to get better. And they've got to dump, and you guys know who I'm talking about. They got to dump the guy who hasn't played all season. See, I don't even want to mention his name because I don't think he's worth mentioning because he's not a superstar in the NBA. He is a bust, and he is not somebody that owners will be talking about giving a max contract to if New Orleans doesn't offer him the max contract extension. Not to mention there's all the rumors and all the reports that his family's been running around saying he doesn't want to stay in New Orleans anyway. And again, even if that's true, I don't know of any general managers or owners who are going to be looking for a guy who has never played a full season in the NBA, who has never been healthy, and who has never been a difference maker to the franchise known as the New Orleans Pelicans. And I can't see any owner, any general manager saying, yeah, let's give that guy a max contract. He's going to be great. No, I don't see it. It ain't going to happen. There's no reason why it should happen. His best days were at Duke, and it is over. Absolutely over. And again, this game last night with San Antonio and New Orleans, again, they got a good baseline for their roster. They can build on it. They can get better. Keep C.J. McCollum. Add some more pieces. They need some more length. They need somebody big in the middle. They need a dominant force in the middle. They've got an opportunity to build something there. They've got a baseline and a good starting point, but they're going to have to dump that superstar, dump that salary, get rid of him. He's a bust. I don't see anybody else ready to pick him up and give him a max contract. He is going to have to bite the bullet and take a lot less money if he wants to stay in the NBA. And San Antonio, look, Popovich has to go. First of all, there was a coach with no fire. He was just standing there. He looked like he was waiting for somebody to give him his oxygen mask. That guy, I guess what? He's like 73 years old. Guess what? It shows. He shouldn't be on the sideline. No passion. Didn't see him coaching. Didn't look like he was coaching up the sideline. Didn't look like he was doing anything. He was just standing around with his arms folded like a parent watching their kid at 5 years of age play a soccer game. That's what Popovich looked like, allegedly, and I use the term loosely, allegedly coaching the San Antonio Spurs. It is time for San Antonio to tell Popovich, you need to retire. It is time for New Orleans to tell that guy who thinks he's a star, that guy who thinks he's going to get a max contract, you're not good enough. If you want to stay in the league, you're going to play for a lot less money. Atlanta Hawks, they beat up on Charlotte last night. Atlanta, showing you a glimpse of what we saw last year in the playoffs. Are we going to continue to see more in the playoffs? I don't know. That's a good question. There's just no way to know for sure. Atlanta, to me, this year, they have been Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and I don't know what to say about Atlanta because, again, they're like very, very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They haven't been consistent. They got to battle the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow. They are the first game of the day. Are they going to get past Cleveland? Cleveland's been great. They've been consistent. They've been good. I don't know that, Atlanta can get past them. I think it's going to be a great game. If the Hawks get past them, then maybe, to me, that'll show that there's a little life, a little fight, a little fire, and we might be able to expect a little something from Atlanta. But again, they'll have to get past a pretty good Cleveland team that I have been impressed with all year long. And if that happens, then maybe the Hawks might be out to get it done again like they did last year. And we just might not have to, look at them as a team to write off after all. But again, they got to get past Cleveland tomorrow first. If they do, then you know what? We'll see. It'll be interesting. But then again, their first actual round that they'll have to play would be against, I believe, the Miami Heat. But I'm also not a big fan of the Miami Heat. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks get past the Cavaliers and they battle the Heat. I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks pull the upset in the series over the Miami Heat. I really wouldn't. I'm not sold on Miami in any way, shape, or form. There's a lot of reasons why they're number one, and it has more to do with other teams faltering, injuries, and all the stuff that went on with, Brooklyn. And that's the reason why they're number one. Otherwise, it would be Brooklyn. Pelicans, obviously, after their win got to go up against the Clippers. So now I got to look at this game and I got to try and say who's going to win. And let me, now that I'm saying that, backtrack to the Hawks and the Cavaliers. Who do I think is going to win tomorrow's game? I'm going to give a slight edge to the Hawks. I think they're going to win by about 5 points. I think it is going to be close, but I think the Hawks can win by 5. That's going to be my prediction there. And I did pick them to win yesterday, by the way. And I did pick the Pelicans to win yesterday. So I did go 2 for 2 yesterday. So I'll take the Hawks tomorrow. And then I got the Pelicans and the Clippers. I am, however, going to take the Clippers. I think the Clippers are a good team. They almost had it done the other night. They came close, but, they kind of faltered just a little bit. And it was really, in all honesty, more about Paul George than it was anything else. And I don't think you're going to see a game where Paul George struggles the way he did in spurts. So I think Paul George cleans it up. And I think the Clippers are going to get past the Pelicans tomorrow night. And then they will battle the Phoenix Suns, which, by the way, will be a very, very good series. Even though I expect the Suns will win it, I still think it will be a very good series without a doubt. So NBA playoffs, I love it. Heating up, getting fun. Let's flip over to college football really quickly. So you have the preseason FPI roundtable. This is the 4-letter network writing this up. It's the biggest takeaways and underrated CFP contenders and more, because the poll for college football has come out. So let me read this to you really quickly, and then we will move on to a couple of other things, jumping back into the NBA and then moving over to the big story that I want to talk about to end today's show. So again, here's the story. The official preseason football power index rankings have been released, and the reactions have come quickly and in abundance. Most teams are nearing the end of spring practice, so what better time than now to dive into which teams are overrated, which are underrated, and based on the initial FPI, which can make a college football playoff run from the depths of the rankings. Remember, it's just mid-April, and real college football games are still months away. So if your team isn't in the top 10, top 25, or even the top 100, there's still time to turn it around as the season approaches. Georgia came in at number 7 in last year's initial FPI rankings. Now, biggest overall takeaways. This is Chris Lowe. As the old cliche goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The top 4 teams in the FPI have been fixtures in the college football playoff. And if I were picking my 4 participants for the 2023 season, it would be Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and Clemson in that order. I am surprised Clemson's in there, to be honest. You know what? He's got to learn how to get into that transfer portal. And I'm hearing a lot of moves, big moves being made in that transfer portal. Clemson's not a part of it. Alabama's lost some guys. Ohio State's picked up some guys. Georgia's picked up some guys. I don't know. But again, let's finish with what Chris Lowe had to say. Alabama has been to 7 of the 8 playoffs. Clemson had been to 6 in a row before falling short last season. Ohio State has been to 4 of the 8 playoffs. Seth Walder, there's a huge gap between the 4 powerhouses at the top, the rankings, and everyone else. The difference between teams number 4, Clemson, and number 5, Notre Dame, is larger than the difference between number 5 and number 19, Baylor. That's not to say one of the teams in that muddled mix of a second or third tier, depending on how you want to count, can't make a leap for a title challenge. Harry Lyles Jr., this is his take on it. There's probably not going to be many surprises this season. The top 10 looks the way you might expect it to look after last season for the most part. The 6 schools that have made multiple appearances in the college football playoff are all in the top 8, along with the same line of thought. It doesn't appear that the FPI has much confidence in any of the group of 5 schools. The highest ranked is Cincinnati at 32, and then UCF at 33. The next closest G5 school is Boise State at 47. Mark Schlabach, as I've said in the past, I'll have 2 of what FPI is having. Obviously, I don't have much of a problem with the top 3. I agree that Alabama and Ohio State are the 2 most talented teams in the FBS. And defending national championship Georgia brings back enough firepower on offense to give its defense time to reload. After that, each of the remaining top 10 teams in the FPI have major issues to address. David Hale, typically preseason metrics, even those based on pretty solid data, don't do much for me. There's just so much we don't know. And in the era of the transfer portal, those questions have grown exponentially. But in some ways, that's what takes Pitt's place here, number 9, so interesting. The Panthers actually have very few unknowns. They return the most production in the nation, according to FPI. And while the loss of Kenny Pickett stings, the arrival of former USC star Keaton Slovis offers an obvious replacement. Now, which team is ranked too high? According to Dave Wilson, Texas. Only once in the past 10 seasons did the Horns finish with a higher end-of-season ranking in the AP poll than they had in the preseason. In 2018, when they started at number 23 and finished number 9, that was the high water mark of the past decade. They finished ranked in the final poll just 3 other times in that span, 19th in 2012, 25th in 2019, and 19th in 2020. Adam Rittenberg, besides Texas, FPI doesn't have a metric for booster-driven university inquiries designed to get a coach fired in February, but I can't see Auburn sitting at number 10 with a straight face. The Tigers have talent, but they usually do. Perhaps they will play inspired football for embattled coach Brian Harsin, who survived the inquiry when few believed he would. Alex Scarborough, no way is Texas the 7th best team in the country. Quinn Ewers could be a revelation at quarterback, and it still won't be enough to flip a roster that finished 5-7 last season. But hey, it's too easy to pick on the Longhorns these days. Instead, let's turn our attention to Auburn. If you had your head buried in the sand since the season ended, you'll be forgiven for not noticing the flood of transfers, how a number of assistant coaches left, and the attempted coup of head coach Brian Harsin. It was interesting. Oh, and let's not forget that Mr. Auburn, 3-year starting quarterback Bo Nix, is gone. Walder, he says Auburn as well. There's some shock value to Texas's rank, but I can see how FPI ended up where it did. The Longhorns rank highly in returning production and recruiting talent. Auburn is less of a standout in those categories, but FPI still forecasts a jump from number 31 in total efficiency last season to number 10 in FPI this year. Now, the question they're answering this time is, which team is ranked too low? Now, Scalabox says NC State. I'm not sure the Wolfpack shouldn't be the favorites in the ACC, and FPI has them ranked number 26 behind conference foes Clemson, Pittsburgh, Miami, and North Carolina. NC State might have won 10 games in a season for only the second time in 116 years if their Holiday Bowl matchup with UCLA hadn't been canceled because of COVID-19 issues. Quarterback Devin Leary might be a legitimate Heisman Trophy contender after throwing for 3,433 yards with 35 touchdowns in 2021. Lowe says, where's the love for Kyle Whittingham and Utah? The Utes all the way down at number 15. They won the Pac-12 last season, have several key pieces returning, and may be the Pac-12's best bet to make the playoff in years. Reitenberg says, I'm guessing NC State will be a trendy pick, and I could make a good case for Mississippi State with Will Rogers and others returning in Coach Mike Leach's offense. Utah is a team that likely will never project that well in FPI because of recruiting rankings, but the Utes are a top 10 team in my eyes, and they return quarterback Cam Rising, running back Tavion Thomas, and other core pieces from the Pac-12 championship team. Hale says the thing people often mistake about FPI is that it isn't intended to be a ranking akin to the AP Top 25. It's a predictive metric that gauges the likelihood of future success. By design, it ranks the most talented teams higher than the group of 5 upstarts. So the question here isn't so much about which team will have a record that warrants a higher ranking, but which team is more talented than FPI is giving credit for. And on that front, USC seems like the clear answer. Yes, we know there are big questions still for the Trojans, and Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams don't automatically turn USC into a title contender, but the upside of this team certainly seems a good bit better than its current ranking at number 37. Walder says Louisville, the Cardinals rank 7th in returning non-quarterback offensive production to complement Malik Cunningham, who also ranked 7th in QBR last season. The second time he's ranked in the top 10 in the metric. That's quite a combination. FPI does see the Cardinals improving. Louisville ranked 43rd in total efficiency, and they're 36th in the FPI. Wilson says Wisconsin. The Badgers got off to a rough start last season, but finished strong, winning 8 of their last 9 games, although that one loss to Minnesota cost them the Big Ten West title. But in the process, they found their next star running back in Braylon Allen, who had 8 100-yard games in his 9 games as the featured back. Graham Mertz passed for more than 200 yards just 3 times, but gets a new offensive coordinator in Bobby Ingram, who spent 8 years with the Baltimore Ravens. The next question we are answering, which team outside the top 10 could make a title run? Now, Hale says 2 things are true here. The first is that teams that don't recruit a sufficient amount of blue chip recruits aren't winning a national championship. That narrows the possibilities significantly. The second is that picking the same blue bloods again and again is no fun. So where's the overlap on that Venn diagram? Miami, Oregon, and Wisconsin could all make a case, but it seems clear the real sleeping giant is Texas A&M. The Aggies just inked their best recruiting class in history. Jimbo Fisher beat Alabama last year. The offensive line could be among the country's best, and the defense is strong. The pieces are all there, all except maybe quarterback. Is there a star somewhere among Haynes King, Max Johnson, and Connor Wigman? Lyles Jr. says, maybe number 14, Texas A&M. The Aggies have plenty of talent with the 59 signees from the Four Letter Network's 300 in their past 4 classes, including 29 of those in the top 100. Only Alabama and Georgia have more. Their season was somewhat derailed last year after Haynes King broke his leg in the second game of the season, and he'll now be in a healthy quarterback competition with LSU transfer Max Johnson and number 1 pocket passer in the ESPN 300, Connor Weigman. The defense is going to have to be retooled, and their schedule isn't favorable, but given that their talent potential compared to others, I'll take the Aggies. Lowe also saying Texas A&M. Texas A&M has recruited like gangbusters under Jimbo Fisher and was on the cusp of making the playoff in 2020. Playing in the SEC West is a grind, but at some point, the Aggies are going to break through and make the playoff. Maybe this is that year after starting at number 14 in the FPI. Scarborough says there is a logjam at the top of college football, and honestly, I don't see a team outside of the top 10 that's ready to break through. But if I'm going to roll the dice and put my money anywhere, I'm splitting it among 2 Big 12 teams, Baylor and Oklahoma State. Why? Well, they both played in the conference championship game last season, and they both returned their starting quarterbacks. Also, have you seen their respective non-conference schedules? There isn't a top 40 team in the bunch. Oklahoma State is playing Central Michigan, Arizona State, and Arkansas Pine Bluff, while Baylor is set to face Albany, Texas State, and BYU. Wilson says Utah. The Utes are loaded and went punch for punch with Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, a game the Utes could easily have won despite losing their starting quarterback in the 48-45 slugfest. Kyle Whittingham is returning 73% of his total offensive production, including the first-team Pac-12 quarterback Cameron Rising and running back Tavion Thomas. There are holes to fill on the defense, no doubt, but there are pieces in place for a breakthrough for Kyle Whittingham. With Oregon and USC breaking in new coaches, the time is right for Utah. Walder says USC. Any team outside the top 10 is an extreme long shot to win it all. And so we're just looking for pure upside. Hard not to see it with the Trojans. A new proven head coach paired with this quarterback, Caleb Williams, who ranked 4th in QBR last season. USC has a long way to climb to get into title conversation, but at least the Trojans play in a very winnable conference with a relatively easy schedule. SOS ranked 66. which should make a playoff berth a little easier. So there it is, college football talk. The rankings are out. A lot of people had a lot of things to say about it. And, hey, I am surprised about all the talk we are hearing about Texas A&M. I get it. They had a great season last season. I did not know they were returning as many of the players that they are. So who knows? Maybe Texas A&M is the team to watch. All right. Really quickly before I get to the final story I want to discuss, I want to flip to the NBA really quickly. I kind of jotted down a list after I did yesterday's show. I jotted down a list, and basically what it was it's a list of the stars that are in the NBA playoffs. And I was basically presenting the question, which is, which one of these stars has pressure on them to win, or do they not have pressure on them to win? Because, there are certain stars that aren't going to have a lot of pressure on them, and as it should be, right? I mean, let's face it, certain situations, there are teams that have stars, but those stars don't necessarily have to produce because they're not necessarily surrounded by a supporting cast that puts a lot of pressure on them and expectation-wise in order to make a deep run to the NBA Finals. But let's talk about it a little bit, and then we'll get into this final story I want to get into. Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks. Does he have a lot of pressure on him? I would make the argument no. The guy is a walking superstar. He is an MVP candidate without a doubt. He is the reason why Dallas has been as successful as they have. Obviously, they got some other surrounding pieces around him. But the question that I'm answering is there a lot of pressure on Luka Doncic in order for him to have to win and take Dallas deep into the playoffs this year? My answer to that question is no. Now, Chris Paul for the Phoenix Suns. Is there a ton of pressure on him? Absolutely. Here's a guy that the national media has been running their mouth about for a long time, screaming and telling you how great he is and how he's so good, even though every team he's ever been on couldn't wait to get rid of him and get off of him. Every superstar that's played with him doesn't like him and didn't like playing with him and didn't have anything favorable to say once they got away from him. But hey, the national media still wants to feed this garbage narrative to you, how he's one of the best players in NBA history. So, Chris Paul, now with the Phoenix Suns, a team, by the way, that I am tired of hearing about that they needed him to win. They had first-year coach Monty Williams, and they had COVID hit. We had that 4 months off. They go to the bubble. They go 8-0, and even Jay Williams said that the Suns were a team that nobody would want to play if they had to face them in the playoffs that season based on the way that the Phoenix Suns were playing in the bubble. They already were putting it together with Rudy Gobert as the point guard. They were already putting it together. They went 8-0 in the bubble. If they would have made it into the playoffs, who knows what could have happened in that year. But, again, shoulda, woulda, coulda. I'm not the guy to talk about that, but I am throwing it out there as something to think about. But the bottom line is the Suns were already figuring it out. They were already in the winning way culture. Then the next offseason comes, they add Chris Paul, and all of a sudden you get the national media feeding you this garbage about how Chris Paul is the reason why they're winning. Oh, he was the missing piece. He was what the Phoenix Suns needed. They already had the winning culture developed. Monty Williams was already a great coach before Chris Paul joined the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul did not make Monty Williams a great coach. Monty Williams was already a good coach, and the Phoenix Suns were already a good team. And just to make sure I finish bursting the bubble of the national media who keeps feeding you this garbage narrative about how great Chris Paul is and how he's the missing ingredient in the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker is the superstar for the Phoenix Suns, not Chris Paul. Simple as 1, 2, 3. Tired of hearing the garbage from the national media, running their mouths, talking about stuff that they don't know anything about. They're only saying it because they're friends with Chris Paul. They like Chris Paul for whatever the reason is. They're like a fan of his and they want to see him succeed, which is fine. But don't feed me garbage that isn't true because he's your friend and you want to see him succeed. He is not the star of the Phoenix Suns. It's Devin Booker. He's not the most important piece of the Phoenix Suns. It's Devin Booker, and he's not the guy that makes the Phoenix Suns run. There's two people, Monty Williams, the coach, and Devin Booker. It is not Chris Paul. And FYI, if Chris Paul was so important, why did the Phoenix Suns continue to win when Chris Paul was injured this year? Fact, not fiction. Why did the Phoenix Suns continue to win when Chris Paul was not on the court? So, tired of hearing this narrative, but here's the cool thing. So the pressure is on Chris Paul, because if the Phoenix Suns fail this year, I am a homer when it comes to the NBA. I am a Phoenix Suns fan, but I'm not going to lie, and Phoenix Suns fans are going to hate me right now. My friends are going to hate me right now. I am not rooting for the Phoenix Suns this year, and honestly, I don't think they're the best team in the West anyway. I think they are probably number 2. I don't think they're number 3. I think they're number 2. Number 1 could be a couple of other teams, but the bottom line is I don't think they're number 1, and I'm not rooting for them this year. I want them to fail, because then I want to say to the national media, what do you have to say about Chris Paul now? He once again failed to take another team to win the NBA Finals. Because if Chris Paul's so great, where's the rings? Where's the rings? And how come no former superstars that have played with him like him? And how come all the other teams that had him couldn't wait to get rid of him? Because he is a cancer in the locker room. Because that's the reason why everybody couldn't wait to get rid of Chris Paul. He runs his mouth, gets on people's nerves. He's a guy you could tolerate for a little while, but after a while, you're like, I'm over it. It's like dating somebody, but instead of marrying them, you break up. That's Chris Paul. All right, Ja Morant. Everybody, again, national media decided they love this guy, and I like him too. He's a highlight reel. He's fun. He's exciting to watch. I get it. I'm all in on that. I understand it. However, for the people who make the mistake of saying that he is an MVP candidate, why does Memphis continue to win without him? Why does Memphis, matter of fact, in all honesty, look a little sharper without him on the floor? I could make the argument that Memphis could be guaranteed to go further in the playoffs without Ja Morant. So the national media trying to feed you the garbage. And again, they always do. They fall in love with players. They look at skill sets. They fall in love with skill sets. Then they fall in love with a player, and they don't look at the big picture because they're not fans and they don't look at the big picture. They only look at skill sets. They look at stats, and they're like, look at those stats. Oh, look at how he just looks so graceful. Garbage. How does he do for the team? What does he do for the team? Does he elevate other players? Does he make other players better? Does he make the team win? No, they win without him. They look great without him. They do well without him. Ja Morant is not even the MVP for the Memphis Grizzlies. Why are you even seriously, with a straight face, saying that he possibly could be an MVP in the league? So is there a lot of pressure on Ja Morant, however, because that's the question that we're talking about now. Is there a lot of pressure on Ja Morant to win or go deep into the playoffs this year? No. Even though the national media is feeding you this narrative, there's no pressure on Ja Morant. They're still a very young team. Jason Tatum. Is there a lot of pressure on him with the Boston Celtics? I would say no. They're a good squad. They're a great team. They play good team ball. They got great team chemistry. But I don't think Boston is the best in the East. And I don't think that the expectations are for Boston to go to the NBA Finals and win it all. So I don't think there is a lot of pressure on Jason Tatum. Kevin Durant. Arguably, you hear all the national media universally saying there's so much pressure on him. And again, this is simple. When they started the season, they have a different roster from what they have now. You had a player, Kyrie Irving, who couldn't play because of COVID, because he didn't get vaccinated. Then when he finally was eligible, he was only eligible to play away games. And then finally, with only a couple of weeks left in the season, heading towards the playoffs, then all of a sudden he became eligible to play all the games. And with Durant and Kyrie Irving, but again, their third player is missing because James Harden did what James Harden does, bullied his way out, and he's on to Philadelphia. And then you get Ben Simmons, who can't play because of injuries. So to say that the expectations for the Brooklyn Nets are NBA Finals or bust is dumb. And any NBA analyst who says that the expectations are NBA Finals or bust, if you don't do that, Brooklyn season is a failure. Again, not looking at the big picture, not being realistic, because again, if you were being realistic, you would look at the fact that James Harden's gone. They got Ben Simmons to replace him. You just got Kyrie Irving to play on a full-time basis right now. Kevin Durant was injured most of the season. He's still getting back into game shape and gelling with all his new teammates, by the way, that he just got from the Philadelphia 76ers. So it's an entire turnover of roster. You can't tell me that you got to expect these guys with only very limited playing time to be talking about NBA Finals or bust. If you're saying that and you're an NBA analyst, then again, you're not being realistic. You don't understand what you're watching. Fact, not fiction. Kyrie Irving, all I could say is the exact same thing I said about Kevin Durant. You didn't get vaccinated. National media wants to hate you because it's political. It has nothing to do with anything other than being political. That's why they're hating on Kyrie Irving. So they're hating on Kyrie Irving because it's political. And because of that, they want to hold him accountable by saying if they don't win an NBA title, the season for the Brooklyn Nets is a bust. Again, not true. Kyrie Irving not only just became eligible to play all the games, but also a turnover of the roster, brand new supporting cast. Your third player, James Harden, isn't there, moved on to Philadelphia. You got Ben Simmons to replace him, and Ben Simmons is injured. So, same as Kevin Durant, obviously, because it's the same team. No, it is not NBA Finals or bust. That is dumb. Devin Booker with the Phoenix Suns. No, the pressure's on Chris Paul. It's on Chris Paul, the guy that was anointed by the national media to be the leader of the Phoenix Suns. So if the Phoenix Suns fail, that's on Chris Paul. That's on who has, for his entire career, been a failure, Chris Paul, if the Phoenix Suns don't make it to the NBA Finals and win. Giannis Antetokounmpo. I believe, and I said this earlier, that all the pressure in the world is on Giannis. Giannis has to prove to the NBA world that last year's title was not a fluke, that they don't deserve to have an asterisk next to that title. Because again, just like the Phoenix Suns, they walked their way into the NBA Finals because of all the injuries, because every superstar on every opposing team was injured, and all they had to do was walk their way into the NBA Finals, and then they beat the Phoenix Suns. Neither team was near the top of the East, near the top of the West. Nobody was picking either one of them to be in the finals. Nobody. And only because every single superstar on the opposing teams was injured did Milwaukee and Phoenix walk their way into the NBA Finals last year. So now Giannis has to prove to the NBA world that last year was not a fluke. And if the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis don't prove that it was a fluke by not winning the NBA title this year, then yes, it is going to be a bust season for the Milwaukee Bucks. I understand some of the national media is finding common sense, and they all realize that Milwaukee's not the best team in the NBA, and they're not projecting them to win the NBA Finals, but there is still a good percentage of these NBA analysts, national media-wise, that are running around talking about how Milwaukee is the most disrespected team in the NBA, and everybody should be on the lookout because they are the odds-on favorite to win the NBA Finals. No, they are not. James Harden in Philly. This is the guy that probably has the second most pressure on him to win an NBA title or go deep into the playoffs because of how he got out in Brooklyn, because of the fact that he's got arguably the guy who's going to be named the MVP of the NBA. And if he doesn't, with Joel Embiid, go on to the NBA Finals, this is absolutely going to be a bust. He forced this trade. He is there with the owner who absolutely adores him. And if he doesn't get it done, and he's been playing like garbage lately, and I have said he's basically your fall-apart king when it comes to the playoffs, he's a lot like Chris Paul. You know, they good highlights, they do great in the regular season, and then when they get to the postseason, they fail. That's been James Harden. I think he's going to do it again, and I think him and Giannis have the most pressure on them to get to the NBA Finals. And then there's Joel Embiid, but I do not put the pressure on Joel Embiid. Again, I put all the pressure on the world on James Harden. I don't put it on Joel Embiid. Yesterday, when I was initially thinking about this, I thought yes to Joel Embiid, but then as I thought about it a little more, no, the pressure is on James Harden. It's not on Joel Embiid. Okay, here is the story that came out late today, which again is the reason why I'm glad I didn't start the podcast on time today. Kyler Murray is not expected to play for the Arizona Cardinals without a new contract. Yes, it is fact, not fiction. It has come out. Kyler Murray is not expected to play for the Cardinals without a new contract. This thing is hilarious, man. This kid doesn't deserve it. Will the Cardinals cave? I don't know. Let me read this story to you. Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray is adamant about getting a new contract before hitting the field for the 2022 season. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reported today that Murray is not expected to play unless he gets a new deal, per sources informed of the decision. The Cardinals have yet to make a contract offer to Murray, whose agent Eric Bernhardt informed the team weeks ago he was pulling his opening proposal off the table. Pelissero added, "It's been a drama-filled offseason for Murray and the Cards, beginning after the Pro Bowl when Murray scrubbed the social media of Cardinals photos. The team replied in kind before the sides later reconciled, hoping to move forward. Murray noted last month he wasn't worried about his future as a Cardinal." Yeah, that's what he said. And now here we are, and he's saying that he won't play without a new contract. Since, however, there have apparently been no strides made toward a new deal, with Murray set to make around $5.5 million in the fourth year of his rookie contract, the 24-year-old two-time Pro Bowler got off to a hot start in 2021, looking like an MVP candidate before injury struck, forcing the quarterback to miss 3 games. Look, this leads me to a different topic altogether, one that I keep saying that I'm going to get to, and I've never gotten to it, and I'm going to get to it now. Kyler Murray is not the most important piece of the Arizona Cardinals. Fact, not fiction, number one. Number two, yes, the guy can't stay healthy. That's a big factor, obviously, when you're talking about a QB1, right? It's the reason why everybody bashes on Jimmy Garoppolo, right? But Kyler Murray, not only is it that he can't stay healthy, he's not the most important piece for the Arizona Cardinals. The most important piece for the Arizona Cardinals is DeAndre Hopkins. Look, and I'm telling you, we always see trends happen and trends flip. And right now it's a pass-happy offensive league in the NFL, and it's not going to change anytime soon. However, the quarterback position has become the number one most important position in the NFL. Arguably, we all understand that. That is true. However, here's the deal. It is going to change in regards to what the most important position on an NFL roster is. And it is going to change, in my opinion, in favor of NFL wideouts. You are going to need true number 1 and number 2 receivers in order to be a Super Bowl threat. You cannot be a Super Bowl threat team without a true number 1 and number 2 wide receiver tandem. Just look at last year's champions, the LA Rams. The year before, look at who the wide receivers were for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm just telling you, if you look and you pay attention to the real trend that's going on, it's just one that hasn't become popular yet. I'm obviously out on front with this one. But the most important position in football is wide receiver. And I stated, look at who was on the roster for the LA Rams last year. I stated, look at who was on the roster for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the year before. And go back to last season, look at the Arizona Cardinals. Look at what happened to them after DeAndre Hopkins went down. There is no other injury that mattered to the Arizona Cardinals, the team that everybody thought was going to roll their way into the Super Bowl and win it all. There is no other injury that was more significant to the Arizona Cardinals than DeAndre Hopkins. Now, the problem that Arizona would have had was they don't have a number 2 and they don't have a number 3, and I don't know if they're going to do anything to fix that this year. Matter of fact, I believe I just saw a report that they just wasted money by re-signing A.J. Green, but then again, they wasted money by re-signing their head coach and their general manager to 2027. And I know I beat up on that once before. However, there is a new angle to that I'm going to get into, not today, but I am going to get into that new angle sometime very soon. But the bottom line is there is no injury that was more significant to the Arizona Cardinals than the injury of DeAndre Hopkins. I'm telling you, times have changed, and the most important person who plays for the Arizona Cardinals is not their QB1. It is DeAndre Hopkins, without a doubt. All right, that's going to do it for today. That's going to do it for this week. You guys enjoy all the NBA playoffs. We will get back at it on Monday. This is Yair Day Show.